Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Black Baseball Mixtape, and this is Baseball Mixtape Talk. I'm very, very excited to be joined by Blake Beemer. Blake Beemer has been recently named the head coach of Butler University. We're so excited. For people that don't know, there are going into this upcoming baseball season, collegiate baseball season, there are 299 Division I baseball programs. Of those 299, there are only 12 Black head coaches. And Coach Beemer is one of them. He is going to be starting this new season. We're so excited to have him. Welcome to the program, Coach.
Cheats, thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here with you today.
Now, I saw you shake your head already when we talk about the numbers of Division I baseball programs, and the number is only 12, and 12 is new. 12 has gone up from 10 because you are one of two new head coaches that will be an African-American head coach in Division I baseball. Before you even think of everything else, have you had a chance to put that in context to kind of reflect, to say, man, there's only a few of us out here?
I think the biggest thing is I've had a chance just because you recognize it, right? You recognize the state the game's in, and you understand that there just aren't enough African American or Black head coaches. You see it. There's not enough Black assistant coaches, and so when you get hired and you realize that you're in a select category, and that it's humbling, but man, it makes you shake your head because you're thinking there should be so many more. Just because it's such a great game and you want to try and get it infiltrated throughout America, throughout your homes, throughout your communities. And that's what it deserves to do, but it takes work and it takes effort to try and get that number going.
Now, we chronicle this all the time. There are Black kids playing the game now. There are youth coaches that are usually parents and instructional, but there's a lot of Black coaches at that level. Even in the major leagues, there seems to be a growth of assistants, getting into the game, former players getting into the game. Division I college baseball is one of the rare points of entry that seems to be really, really difficult. And I think it's chronicled a bit. A lot of programs hire alumni. There's just the numbers of college baseball for African Americans has always been low, and it seems as if the points of entry are much more difficult. You've been coaching for approximately 10 years now, give or take, probably a little bit over that. But you've been very intentional about being in college baseball that whole time. What have you seen as being an assistant from Penn State to Eastern Illinois to Ball State to down here? What have you seen as kind of the challenges of points of entry to encourage more Black head coaches?
Yeah, I think there's a few things that when you sit and think about it a lot, you've got some time to come up with your own theories. So I think you see a lot of head coaches are former catchers, and a lot of head coaches are guys that played professionally. And so the number of Black catchers is smaller. You don't see a ton of outfield head coaches. I think that's one piece of it that goes into it that you got to think about. The fact that you have to start as an unpaid volunteer, that'll prohibit a lot of people just being able to support yourself on minimal amounts of money. Under $10,000 a year when you're first starting out, that makes it tough. And then positionally, I think that's the piece of it, is to break in. Coaches are always looking. I feel like your pitching coach and your catching coaches are the ones that are most sought after. So those are the guys that get hired into college baseball, and they tend to stay in college baseball. And I would just say predominantly your Black guys playing are seemingly on the infield or the outfield. And just, I would say statistically, there's probably less outfield college coaches than anything as far as the head coaches go. I could be wrong, but that would be what my gut would say on it. And so I think there's some different factors in it.
No, that's the first I've heard of that. I think you might be onto something tremendous, especially when you talk about the number of catchers, because that seems to be something that even today in the major leagues, they talk about the lack of African-American catchers that are playing every day. I think we might have one in the major leagues now. And I saw a stat that was amazing that I can't remember the young man's name now, who was a starting catcher, but he was like the first starting catcher since Charles Johnson of the Marlins. And I was just like, wow, that's amazing. So I definitely think you're onto something. And it's interesting because you're an outfielder, a pretty solid one. Look, Coach, you are a young man. Look, you are a young man. So get this. You're in the era where your highlights are still on YouTube. So your Ball State highlights are still on YouTube, where you can see you out there roaming the outfield and that left-handed batting stance. It's actually pretty amazing. But yeah, you are an outfielder that turned into a coach, that turned into a head coach. But I definitely think you're onto something as you process that in regards to some of those points of interest, because I really do think you're onto something, especially when you talk about pitchers and catchers and the sought after. How does programs go about changing that? Do we just kind of expand the field to look for coaches like yourself, because you seem to be doing great?
I think there does. I think there needs to be an open conversation and about a dialogue, because I think your connotation is always that the catchers understand the game at the highest level because they have to. Well, I just don't think that has to be true, because what makes the catcher think about the game more than we thought about in the outfield? You have a lot of time to think in the outfield. I'm just saying, you can try and process the game at a high level, but again, it's and that's one of those ingrained, I feel like, folklore is like, man, the catchers are the smartest, are the ones thinking about it. And you just have to change that narrative. And you have to be open to the understanding that infielders, outfielders, pitchers, everybody's talking about the game, thinking about the game at a high level, but you have to break the stereotype of it. You have to say, hey, we're going to know the X's and O's, the schematics, we're going to know the pitches, we're going to know the play calling just as well when we see it from the outfield. No different from the catcher. You see the whole field. When you're in center field, you see everybody. But again, you don't get that same the same type of love, I guess, from the outside world on being able to know the game. But I just think communicating it, being willing to talk the game, being able to listen to more than just the catchers, I think that's important. And part of the entry, right, is when you're first starting out, you're throwing a lot of the batting practice, and so your outfielders have your longer arm action, so it may not throw as good BP right out the gate. That's one thing that to get jobs, especially early on, especially, and I say this with the most respect, again, I think I'm the youngest head coach in the country, with the most respect to the older coaches, it was a requirement at one point to throw good batting practice. I think with younger coaches, you're used to machine work, you're used to finding other ways to get hitters better. But a long time ago, you had to throw good batting practice, and it was always assumed catchers with the shortest arm action would always throw the best BP. So the catchers get to work with the hitters. You work with the hitters. You get to keep coaching. So I think some of that needs to the conversation needs to change, where outfield guys can throw batting practice, outfield guys can work with hitters. And if their batting practice isn't good, you can still be a good hitting coach. Yep. I don't think that is a prerequisite that needs to be continued as much anymore. But it takes open conversation. And I just think one of those things that as we continue to move forward, it's something you do have to consider.
That is awesome. And I think that those perspectives are spot on and things that I haven't heard a lot of discussion about. So I think that's phenomenal. One of the things that's exciting about you, especially learning about your background quite a bit, is that you were very intentional on saying you wanted to be a head coach since you were 11 years old. And
it's been my dream.
How does that come about? And how does that come about? And how has that always been a thing for you?
So I tell this jokingly, but with enough seriousness, because there's some truth to it. If you remember the movie The Mighty Ducks, there's Adam Banks is a star player in the Mighty Ducks, and Charlie Conway is the bench player who should be a coach. I was always more Charlie Conway than Adam Banks. And I just think from a young age, I realized I was not going to be a professional baseball player as much as I wanted to. My dad had coached at Wright State in Bowling Green, and I just was enamored with the recruiting side, with being able to try and sell guys on a vision and try and build a program that way. I've just always thought that was really neat and something I wanted to do from a young age.
Thank you much. Appreciate you. Hey, Coach, sorry about that. We had a technical issue. And
no problem at all.
Really quick before I change the edit, your light went from on to off. So I wanted to check to see.
Let me see what I can do about that.
Well, oh, there it is. It's back on.
I just hadn't moved in a while. It's got those motion sensors. I hadn't moved. I apologize.
And we are. I'll cut this part of it because I've got a controversy with my studio really quick that was walking in. Let me get a couple of more questions, and I want to ask about the Butler program, and we'll try to run. Maybe I'll try to run another 5 to 8 minutes, but then I'll have to circle back because I want to be able to continue this.
And we can do this again tomorrow. You tell me if there's a better day.
This is really, really great. Matter of fact, let's do one more, and I apologize about this. So let me do one more about the just the challenge of what's new in regards to being a head coach. I heard you talk in the past about the new experiences and people reaching out and new challenges every day. Let me talk about that, and then what we'll do is we'll get together. I'll send you an email to get together. We'll talk specifically about the Butler program because I want that to be a part of the interview as well.
No problem at all.
No, and I've got more. It's just I think the studio, we had a reservation contract, double booking basically. No let me see. I'm still recording. I'm going to come right back. I'm going to just jump right into it. So, Coach, this is the fact that you're so intentional about wanting to do this, and now that you're doing this is so awesome. And the fact that you've spent, like you said, nearly 10 years kind of building up to this point, whether it was at Penn State or, the work at Ball State to now. But now that you're in the seat, things change a bit. What are some of the things that are just new that you never thought you'd have to be dealing with heading the Butler program?
I think you don't realize the amount of people that are going to look to you for answers. Everybody from your equipment staff, your strength staff, your assistant coaches, your players, your recruits, everybody wants a piece of your time to get answers. And there are all things that you have to be able to answer or you have to delegate properly. But just the amount of questions about everything, I think I just wasn't ready for. And looking back now, I should have been, because I've always asked my head coach a million questions,
right.
But I never really thought about the fact that everybody else was asking him those same questions. And so I think just you get pulled with so many different questions that you do need to answer to have the program running the way you want it to be ran. That's the first thing. I think the fundraising piece, you can help and you can do bits and pieces when you're an assistant, but when you're meeting with people about the future and people who have invested in the program, that's another piece that I hadn't had enough experience with. And we're hitting the ground running, trying to get some things going here, but I'm still drinking out of fire hose. I'm doing the best I can promise you. But it's simple things like when it's your first time, you only know what you know.
Sure.
And this is a new school, we're at a private school. And so simple things like getting our guys housing is done differently than what I'm used to. And so trying to figure out how the dorms are set up, trying to figure out how to get guys placed, stuff like that, where when you're an assistant or you've been at a place for a few years, it kind of rolls itself. Mm-hmm. But it's one of those things where it's, oh yeah, we got to make sure guys are housed. We got to make sure guys have their meal plans, like simple things like that you take for granted when you've been somewhere for a few years. That combine that with you're working on with boosters, you're working with your equipment staff, you're working with your field, your maintenance, you're working on the schedule, you're working on recruiting. All of a sudden it's like, wow, you do get asked a lot of questions, and you are asked a lot to try and make sure this thing runs the way you want. But
so how do you balance that quickly? How do you balance all, like, do you just kind of set a schedule where this is more administrative? This is because you still got to coach a program, get the boys on the field and start winning some games.
And that's the most important piece, is you got to be on the field and win games, get guys better. How do you balance it? day by day, I'm trying. I'm just learning. If anybody has a good answer for me, I've got a to-do list and I try and prioritize. This needs to be done today. Cross it off and keep moving.
Coach, it's really funny. I laugh because most quote unquote executives or CEOs, especially new ones, when I talk to them, the fundraising piece is something that, like, no matter what industry it's in, a lot of times you have to raise money or you have to, and they're just like I didn't know this was even a thing. I didn't get into becoming the head of this company, so I have to raise money all the time. I want to run the company, and so I always, especially when I talk to coaches of programs and things like that, it's like we have all of these needs, and we understand that, even if it's whether it's boosters or kind of just extra donations can really help with these needs. But I was like, I still gotta lead and coach and do all of those things. It is an amazing task. I am going to switch gears, Coach, and ask you about a couple of things after the break. This is a lot of fun. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Blake Beemer, head coach of Butler University, and we'll be right back after this. Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking to Butler University head baseball coach Blake Beemer. The pattern is not heavily recruited as a player out of high school, right?
Correct.
And it was, you had to take the initiative amongst yourself to send out all of your tapes, right?
Yes, I did.
To coaches and say, hey, look, I can play this game, and you got the opportunity. And the pattern, like I said, you said you're aware of it, but you had to go and take the initiative for someone that's always wanted to be a head coach. And then you said, hey, I want to be a head coach. And you kind of stepped out. Has this been kind of a pattern for your life to say, these are my goals, I'm going to go out and get them? Because it's a unique quality in many ways.
It's funny you say it like that. So I was a recruiter walk-on at Ball State. Greg Beals, I owe him everything. He took a chance on me. Let me have a good career there, which led me to being where I am today. But I did. I went to camp, sent emails, sent the videos, did the whole try to get recruited thing. And then when I'm trying to get into coaching, when you're trying to land the first volunteer spot, you're doing the same thing. So I've got in my original Gmail account, I still have all these emails I sent to coaches.
Are you kidding me?
Just about every school east of the Mississippi. I just said, my name is Blake Beemer. I just recently graduated from Ball State. I'm hoping to get into coaching. Do you have a volunteer or graduate assistant spot that I'd be able to talk to you about? Would love to be in contact. So, I mean, I've got responses from coaches, and I know schools that didn't respond to stuff you don't forget. But yeah, so even just trying to sell myself to be a volunteer, and Coop taking a chance on me at Penn State, and it worked out there. And then same thing, I've actually never said this before, but Edwin got hired at Eastern Kentucky, and just following Coach Thompson's career, it's been unbelievable. But he gets hired at Eastern Kentucky, and I reached out to him trying to get hired on to be a recruiting guy for him, because when you're a volunteer, you're trying to get a paid job. And so that summer, I reached out to a bunch of guys, and Edwin's one I left a message for. I never got back from him. He never called me back. I'm not salty about it anymore because he's a great mentor of mine. But
we'll have to track him down.
It was great because I ended up at Eastern Illinois in the same conference.
That's funny.
But it's one of those things where, I mean, I'm adamant, and I kind of know what I want to do, and I'm not afraid to go out and get it, and I'm not afraid to work for it. Again, traits I've learned from a lot of great coaches in front of me, and obviously my parents. So it's a lot of things have had to come together for me.
Well, that's a funny story in that regard, simply because you're reaching out to coaches like Coach Thompson. But when this opportunity came out, they already broke the news earlier this year that I believe it's Coach Jackson over at Memphis, was calling you to see when he got the job. And so it's like all full circle moment that as soon as they found out you were up for this job, they're like, oh no, we don't, we're not going to take him. we want him to get the Butler job. But from you having to call out from, your early stages of your career to now coaches calling you, it must be a nice feeling.
It's definitely different. It's humbling. Now I understand why Coach Thompson may not have gotten back to me. You get inundated. It's crazy how many people will reach out. So I definitely have a better respect for it,
That's funny.
and an understanding of what goes into it.
Well, let's talk Butler baseball. You come into a program that, let's just be frank about this part of it. There's going to be some turnaround. There's a new coach for a reason. You got a new staff for a reason. Some talented players there. But what's the first thing you do when you say, "Hey, look, I got to set the tone, and this is the way we're going to do things, and hopefully it's going to kind of change the." I don't know if it necessarily culture change is the right word, but definitely change what's the product on the field.
Yeah, I think the first thing we got to build relationships with our guys, and get to know them, and then we just have to establish the expectations. I don't think it's so much as a culture issue. We have great kids, but we don't expect enough yet. And I've told the guys all the time, like, our expectation is to win at the highest level. And so what that means, we're going to hold guys accountable to win at the highest level. And I think just with our guys right now, working day in and day out to try and raise those expectations and raise the understanding of what it takes to get there. It's going to be a process. But I think if we can just, and I tell the guys all the time, we're reading the book Chop Wood, Carry Water. If we can get after it day by day and fall in love with the process of understanding it takes what it takes, there's no shortcuts to it. We can get this thing going. I mean, there's everything in here at Butler University for this place to win at the highest level. It's got an unbelievable academic institution. Indianapolis is an unbelievable city. It's great recruiting grounds. The facilities, we've got indoor facility, we've got everything we need to develop at a high level. We can win, and we need to make sure our guys understand that's the expectation. It's not just come here and play and be happy just to be on the field. There's an expectation to win here, and we owe it to our alums, we owe it to the teams that came before us, and we owe it to ourselves. I think we have to do that for ourselves to try and play this game at the highest level we can to try and get the most out of our experience.
Can you describe to me a Coach Beemer guy and how you go about getting those, the people in the program that you feel are Coach Beemer guys?
Yeah, I think they're just tough. I tell guys all the time, you can win in college baseball with toughness. I would love every guy to run a 6'4" and throw 100 from the outfield and be able to hit the balls over the fence at will. But the biggest thing is I want guys that are going to be tough, because I think if you have toughness, you're going to have resiliency. If you have resiliency, you're going to come day in and day out and keep working, and you're going to get better. And I think that all comes from the toughness. And tough guys can handle honesty. They can handle criticism. They can handle being coached. All that, I think, will trend our program in the right direction. And I'm an energetic guy. I gravitate towards guys who bring energy, who are enjoying being on the baseball field. I think there's something to that. There's something to making the most of every day and enjoying it and being around guys that enjoy what they're doing. So if you had a Beemer guy, they're tough and energetic, and hopefully we've got more talent than I did when I was playing. I can tell you that.
Look, I don't know about that. You had a pretty good career. Hey, let me know what is. You talked about expectations. Butler baseball year one, under your leadership. What are the expectations? Are the expectations to compete? Are the expectations to elevate several levels postseason? When you talk to the team at the beginning of the season, say this is what we want to get out of it. What are you looking at?
Make no mistake, we expect to try to compete for a championship. The top 4 teams in the Big East make the conference tournament. Our expectation is to get there, be in the top 4, and give us a chance to get to a regional by winning the tournament. It's one of those things where I've seen it done. I was on a part of a team that went from last place to competing for a championship in the conference title game. And so it can be done here. And we're trying to make the top 4, just make the Big East tournament and see what we can do. And it's going to take just relentlessness and an unbelievable effort and make sure that we get our execution down. But if we can make the top 4, once you get in the tournament, anything can happen. And we're trying to get to a dog pile there at Prasco Park and see what we can do from there.
What should I know what you expect. I know what you expect out of your players. I know what you expect out of your team. What do you expect and vice versa with your relationship with the Butler baseball fans? Obviously, you want every home stadium to be a tough place to play, but that's those are always a relationship. Um, I think sometimes programs make the mistake of, you're our school, you're supposed to support us, and there's not that much of a relationship. The best ones that you see are teams with the fans in a relationship, and they want to, they have expectations on each end. What should the Butler baseball community want to see, and in turn, what would you want to see from the Butler baseball community?
I think that hopefully they'll come out and see that we're going to play an exciting brand of baseball, and our guys are going to compete every pitch and every out. I think they'll understand that's the expectation, and we're going to hold our guys to that standard. In return, I hope that they stick with us. It's a long season. I hope that fans come out. I understand that there needs to be a good product. I understand winning cures a lot of ills. But my hope will be that they'll understand how we're going about it and the daily process we're going through, and they'll appreciate that our guys are going to give everything we have to reach our goal of making it to the Big East tournament.
Do you set kind of, I don't know if internal is the right word, but do you set benchmarks for yourself and say, okay, this is a process. Year 1, we want to be here. Year 2, year 5, we want to be here. How do you kind of measure if you feel like you're doing the things that you need to do?
Honestly, I'm trying to stay short term, and I tell our guys day by day, just if you can wake up, get through the day, and know that, man, at the end of the day, you move the needle, you got better, we push this thing forward, job done, and just put together as many days like that in a row as we can. And I think it was last week. Last week we didn't do it. We took a step backward. I had to tell the guys, hey, we didn't get better today. So we had put, I think, probably like 9 straight great days together, and then we took a step back. And so now we're on a streak where we're trying to put another 9 together and keep moving it. But if we just do it day by day and fall in love with get better today, and then tomorrow get better than that, that's our benchmark. That's our expectation. Not to say we don't want to win every game. We want to move X amount of spaces in the standings. That's all real, but the only thing we can control is we're right now. And so we're really trying to just immerse ourselves in getting better today. Tomorrow will take care of itself. The season will take care of itself, but only if we take care of right now, which is what we're focusing on.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Coach Blake Beemer, Butler University baseball. Again, an amazing leader who is about to take over a program, and we're really, really excited. Well, he's taken over a program, and they're in it, so we're really excited about it. Coach, we're going to switch gears before we get you out of here. You were an outfielder. Who are your favorite all-time baseball outfielders? Who'd you look at and say that guy is a guy I want in my outfield?
I mean, Ken Griffey Jr., right? The kid. I mean, he's one of the best to ever do it.
Absolutely.
And then I grew up. I mean, if I had a 3 of when I was growing up that I loved,
yeah, let's do it.
Junior is the first round pick. Torrey Hunter would be the next one.
I like it.
He was as good as it gets. And then Vladimir Guerrero, because the cannon. I mean, he could absolutely throw the heck out of it, and it was just fun to watch. And then how fearless Vlad played, I really enjoyed. You got your next tier of guys that would be like Eric Davis and Jimmy Edmonds, because those guys, man, you got some athletic dudes out there. But Junior, Hunter, and Vlad were my 3 growing up.
Coach, you were an outfielder. If you could face any pitcher at any era, who would you want to face?
Give me Bobby Gibson. I want to see it.
Oh, geez. Really?
He changed
that might be
right?
might be a first. I don't know if anybody wants to face Bob Gibson. That might be a first.
He changed the game. I mean, he was that dominant. I want to see how good was it.
That from historical standpoints, we know it's pretty good. It's
pretty good. I want to see it. I want to test it. Let's go.
All right. I tell my friends, I ask my friends this all the time. And we have this kind of running game, but But you're a former D1 player, so this might be different for like the average layman. Pedro Martinez in his prime.
Yep.
You get 50 pitches. Now he can throw anything at any location, but you get 50 pitches. How many do you put in play?
Oh. Pedro in his prime.
Right.
I've got to put it in fair territory.
Fair territory, yes. Got to put it in play.
I wasn't that good of a player. Like I'm telling you, man.
Oh, that's great.
5's generous. I'm not sure I'm putting 5 in play. I'm not too cocky to say that I'm better than Pedro. I'm just saying. I mean, you got big leaguers who didn't.
Right. You get 50 pitches. You get 50 pitches.
Man.
That's funny.
Yeah, we'll set the over under at 3.5, and it's a push probably. That'll be close.
That's funny. It's so much changing in the game, and it's been well documented from, it seems like every opening day it's well documented about the changing number of African Americans in the major leagues. Obviously with the high water marks in the early 80s, that was still only about 19 and 20%, but which was, seems like a million to
right.
What we're looking at now, which is about 8% in Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball has done a lot of things. And it seems like some of those things are really, really kind of turning fruit. If you looked at this year's Major League Baseball draft, I want to say like 5 out of the first 6 are African born players. Like they've got a lot. Do you think, in regards to people that have just followed the game, love the game, do you think that there's enough being done to get young Black players to play, or do you think we should be doing more?
I think enough is always a tough one, right? I mean, you can always do more. And the sense is you can always do more, but I think it's nice that there's more being done today than there was 5 years ago. And hopefully if we can keep doing that, we'll keep growing the game. But is there enough being done? No, I'd say probably not. I think the financial aspect of travel baseball is still prohibitive. I think the cost of the 11.7 is still prohibitive. It makes it tough for college baseball. I think the NIL is going to help. I think you're going to see more money into big time college baseball programs, which is going to help persuade athletes, I think, to stick with baseball longer. So I think that's good. And I think the grassroots stuff from the RBI and stuff like that from Major League Baseball is great. But I think we can always keep getting better. We can do more. The conversation, even just more conversations. I think conversations are great. Opening eyes are great. Getting awareness that, hey, the game needs diversity. Things like that can always be continued.
That's awesome. Coach, this has been a pleasure. I'm going to get you out of here on this last question because you're in fall season, you're practicing, you're about to start your fall schedule on Saturday. Best of luck. This is not the time for you to take any breaks, unwind, relax in any way whatsoever. But with all that's coming at you and everything, in many ways being new and having this kind of pillar of your career start now, how do you find any type of balance? Like, how do you kind of make sure that you're the best Coach Beemer you can be?
Balance is probably not my strong suit. Those who know me would probably agree with that. Yeah, if I figure that out, I'll let you know.
Oh, geez.
I love what I do, and I haven't worked a day in my life yet, so it doesn't feel like a job or anything. So we're still rolling, trying to figure it out.
Well, that's a good feeling to have. Coach, we're going to be following you closely. We wish you the very best of luck. It is so exciting to have coaches like you in Division I baseball at places like Butler. Tell everybody that's listening where they can follow the Butler baseball program.
Yeah, so on Twitter, Butler's at Butler U Baseball. Same for the Instagram, and then follow myself at BT Beam. That's BTBEEM, and then 24 on Twitter and Instagram. And come out to Indianapolis. Come out and see us. We're going to play a competitive schedule, and we play a fun, exciting brand of baseball.
Awesome. Thank you, Coach. Best of luck as you continue on. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mixtape Talk. It's awesome. We're going to continue to have these conversations with some of the best coaches around the country and best players and all kinds of executives. So it'll be a lot of fun as you keep watching. And until next time, see you.